Hello, American Africans, my family. It is an honor to speak with you all today about American African descendants of slaves. Now, this entire YouTube channel is literally dedicated to educating you all about everything there is to know about our tribe. So today, I'm going to go over material that hasn't already been mentioned on this channel so that this way you can completely understand and further differentiate between our tribe and the other three Black American tribes previously discussed. So let's start with the name American African Descendants of Slaves. And based on previous videos, I won't go over the American African part again. If you need to be caught up with this part of the nomenclature, please watch the video titled The Difference Between American Africans DOS and African Americans. In that video, I go into specifics about the word order of American African. But today we're going to focus specifically on descendants of slaves, DOS. So DOS is in parentheses because it will drop once reparations are fully enacted. Now, there are three main reasons for this drop, but I'm only going to go over one. But the first reason I'm going to give you is the legal reason, but the second is a moral and more philosophical reason, and the third would be a more societal reason. But again, for the sake of time, I'm just going to go over the legal aspect, which has to do with the court of law. So when you think of the court of law, you have plaintiff, right? And then you have a defendant. So that's the victim and then the accused. So once you win your case as the plaintiff, your status is upgraded, right? You go from victim to victor. So you're essentially the winner, right? You won. As opposed to the guilty party who is now legally guilty, right? That's the loser, so to speak. So we're basically saying that once we win our case, we no longer need to refer to ourselves in the former tense. It's unnecessary and we've won, so we've achieved victory. So we drop the victimhood, if you will. But until that happens, we will continue to refer to ourselves as victims. And that's important because it gives us an advantage going into the court, so to speak. So this is just an analogy to give you kind of the gists of this. And so that there's no misunderstanding, when I'm referring to the legal route, please understand I'm using this as an example only. Okay, so do not be confused. The American African tribe, our tribe, we're prepared to fight this battle on all fronts. So that means we're prepared for every single scenario and we're ready for every outcome. The legal route is simply one route, but there are several other routes and we're also prepared for them as well. In other words, we're prepared to fight this politically. We're prepared legally, meaning through the judicial system, and we're also prepared to fight this throughout society, the social route, the trial by social media. Okay, that includes mainstream media. We're prepared for the UN General Assembly sanctions because they've already actually voted for this and it was just never enforced. My point is our tribe, and I'm only speaking for the American African tribe, only our tribe. I'm not talking about any other tribe. We are prepared on all fronts for whatever is needed, whatever is necessary. We are prepared. We're ready for this battle and we've mapped out different courses of action so that should we need to take any one different action, we can do so easily and smoothly at a moment's notice. And I want to make sure this is clear to everyone. And this is also the difference between our tribe and the other tribes. We're fully prepared on every level for any outcome. The reason we use the term slaves and not the term slavery is, again, think of the court of law. Legally, the practice of slavery as a government-sanctioned institution was legally abolished in 1865. Now, of course, we all know that it wasn't actually done away with, it just transformed and it was still here. But since we were claiming human suffering spanning the years of 1619 till present day, it's judicious for us to focus our case on the human beings who suffered and not the institution or the entity that profited. So in other words, we're saying, okay, slaves, because slaves were less than human, they were below animals, whereas Slavery was the institution. It was the entity. And that was, quote unquote, legally abolished. So in order to get maximum benefit, we focus on the human beings affected, which again spans all the way back then to all the way till now. And this is human suffering. So once again, we maximize victimhood for the highest payout using slaves. And we highlight the fact that we were mistreated, obviously our ancestors, even us too today, but they were mistreated, they were treated below animals, they were treated worse than anything on this earth. We had no rights, and they could kill us and rape and torture, murder, and maim us and our ancestors with impunity. So the word enslaved, you humanize the person, you give them dignity almost. This dignity was not allotted to our ancestors. So we have to think about it that way. And thus, using the word enslaved actually takes away from the brutality, the barbaric and the unfathomable treatment that our ancestors endured. So, our goal is to maximize victimhood for this specific period of time, okay? Just for this specific period of time. And this is to kind of like plead our case through. And I hope this makes sense, but that's the point of using slaves vice slavery and slaves vice enslaved. So I'm not going to go through every aspect of the website. I want you guys to do that on your own, but I will go through this section right here. I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. But I would like to say first that this qualification is not about racial or genetic or any other type of purity test. This is about statistics, biology, and history. This is historical facts here, okay? So biologically, it's natural. It's a natural instinct to replicate oneself and to procreate with your counterpart. That's biology, okay? That's literally how your race or your species or your lineage, your survivors, your legacy, that's how you last into future generations. So don't let anyone poison your mind into thinking that this qualification is some sort of nefarious qualification, because it's not, okay? This is not about eugenics or genetic manipulation or any other perverse delusion. This is about statistics. It's biology and historical fact, plain and simple. DNA and, just genetic testing is the way of the future. It's already a requirement for many other fields across the spectrum. I'm talking forensic science, anthropology, microbiology, cancer research, criminology to find serial killers. I mean, the list is truly endless, okay? Genetics is literally the way of the future. So not only is it natural to include it as a prerequisite, it's forward thinking, especially for our specific tribe, American Africans. This is the most logical way to recompense the actual human beings who suffered the most atrocity in this country, even now. So from past all the way to present, this is directly linked to ancestral bloodline, your genetics, your phenotype, your physical appearance, which is directly linked to chattel slavery here in the United States of America and the perpetual racial discrimination we face even today. Like, these facts all line up. They match up. So I'm not sure where the disconnect is. My only issue back in the day was figure out, okay, well, what percentage do we start from? And that's where I had to conduct a more in-depth phenotypical research and see, okay, who's showing up how and what type of discrimination, etc., what was in the past, and obviously what we could face in the future based on this genetics, our phenotype, and how we look and how we present ourselves. But, this is something that you guys have to question, okay? You have to start questioning things, because when these types of simple things are not manifesting in other folks' reparations plans, you have to question these things. What is the motive? What is the end result? What are they trying to achieve? What is the goal? What is the objective? What is their mindset? Ask all these questions, because this should be questions you should be asking, because that's what I'm asking. And I mean, this is also kind of circling back to where we are at today, right? We live in a melting pot. Okay, we have a lot of different genetics and phenotypes walking around here. So this, to me, even now, obviously, and back then as well, it's the only way to ensure proper and appropriate distribution. That's just the facts. and the most genetically oppressed must get the highest recompense. That's it, period. That's how this should work. The level of societal discrimination you and your ancestor being a direct reflection of you, the level of discrimination they received and you receive will directly correlate to the amount you are rewarded. This is not rocket science. And any other manner of fund distribution is unfair to you and your ancestors who were mistreated unequally across the board. See, the worst thing you could do in a situation like this is to treat everyone as if everyone is treated equally, when they're not. Everyone faces discrimination in this society differently. This is just how this country is. It disproportionately discriminates. That's how this warfare is won, because it's doing things and it's transforming and transmuting and it's changing second by second, day by day. Okay, you have to understand that. Thus, the level of reward must directly reflect that truth. And I will continue to reiterate this throughout this video. I am simply referring to our tribe. This is what our tribe is doing. You do not have to do this if you do not associate yourself with the American African tribe. Okay? You know, this qualification assures our benefits remain and are maintained for our legacy throughout the longevity of the reparations program to our specific lineage. So this fact-based qualification is completely legit, merited, and warranted. We're protecting our legacy so that we prosper and continue to do so throughout our future generations. Again, don't let anyone shame you into thinking this is evil or immoral or reprehensible because they're gaslighting you. You control the narrative, steer the conversation in the logical direction, put them in their place, because they clearly don't know what they're talking about, or they're trying to fool you because you don't know what you're talking about. One or the other. Just stay astute. And one last thing, because I don't want people to be confused. This qualification has nothing, zero, nada, to do with redefining who is and who is not Black, or who can or who cannot call themselves quote unquote Black. To be Black in America is based on many different factors and has nothing to do with blood quantum qualification, at least for this reparations program, because Black, quote unquote, is simply a nomenclature that describes a group of people within the system of white dominance, white power, and white control. So, you know, being Black has nothing to do with the blood quantum qualification for reparations. And I say this with full knowledge and awareness that just because it doesn't necessarily define who is Black, I also recognize and can understand if people do try to say this is what it means to be Black. So I'm trying to look at both sides of the coin here, but I'm just letting you know where we stand as American Africans with regard to this specific qualification for the reparations bill. What everyone does with the qualification outside of it is whatever they decide to do. Okay, I'm going to conclude my message today by letting you all know that this designation, American African, DOS, there is no one founder. There is no one creator. There is no one leader of this designation. Everyone and anyone who identifies and qualifies, you are in fact American African, should you choose to refer to yourself as such. We collectively created this term together. So please do not mention me at all. But I do want you to share the website with one another and eventually upload your own YouTube video expressing your thoughts on the American African designation. You know, what are your agreements or maybe disagreements with it? I want to hear everything. And I want you to have these discussions online as well as offline. So in your homes, with your family, your friends, in your workplace, places, just wherever. And go through the website, click on the Black agenda, click on the top 5 questions and answers. Discuss amongst yourselves. And that's the reason why this website was created. It's for those of you who identify as American African. You have a place now to refer and go back to and let others know, hey, go to this website. This is what I'm about. This is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is what I stand for. And that wraps up today's message. I want to thank each and every one of you. I appreciate your time, and I hope today's message uplifts, inspires, and elevates you. Goodbye, family.